Breathing in, we read Albert Camus' The Stranger. And in this novel, he used the term the moment of awareness. The moment of awareness. When the protagonist of the novel learns he's going to be executed for the murder he has committed, anxiety, fear, and anger are born in him. Breathing out. In despair, he is lying on his prison bed, looking at the ceiling, when for the first time he sees the square of blue sky through the skylight. He sees the sky is so blue. It's the first time in his life that he's been deeply in touch with the blue sky. The moment of awareness has manifested. The moment of awareness. Breathing in, maybe we too are living like dead people. We move about life in our room, in our own corpse, because we are not touching life in depth. We live a kind of artificial life with lots of plans, lots of worry and anger. Breathing out, we are never able to establish ourselves in the here and now, and thus live our lives deeply. We must wake up. Wake up. What is the difference between learning to die and living like dead people? How do we touch life in depth? Again, breathing out, we are never able to establish ourselves in the here and now, to live our lives deeply. We must wake up, wake up. Breathing in. Has the most wonderful moment of your life already happened? Perhaps not yet, but it could happen at any time. Breathing out. No matter how old we are, we tend to feel that the most wonderful moment of our life has not happened yet. We fear it's too late, but we are still hoping. The truth is, if we continue to live in forgetfulness, that is, without the presence of mindfulness, that moment is never going to happen. The moment of awareness. Breathing in, we make the most magnificent and wonderful blue sky moment of our life here and now. This present moment must become the most wonderful moment in our life. All we need to transform this present moment into a wonderful one is freedom. Breathing out, all we need do is free ourselves from our worries and preoccupations about the past and the future. Breathing in, the deep insight of impermanence is what helps us stay in the moment. It is useful to keep our concentration on impermanence alive. We think the other person is in our life is going to be there forever, but that is not true. Breathing out, the person is impermanent, just as we are. So if we can do something to make that person happy, we should do it right away. Anything we can do or say to make them happy, say it or do it tonight. It's now or never. Now or never. Bowing together. And take your time, please, coming back to your chair. Okay, let's try that bow again. Thank you for being here, dear hearts. And here's Roger.
Okay, good evening. Hi, Norma. Good to see you. And that was a very beautiful meditation. Powerful. Talking about life and death. And then there was an article that I sent Judith where she derived the meditation from part of that. Mm-hmm. And the subtitle of the article was Becoming Truly Alive, Living and Dying and Becoming Truly Alive. So Thay's teaching, is to look deeply and to learn how to live as our true self. The Buddhas, talked about enlightenment, liberation, and how all beings together share this infinite being that is our essence. Not perceivable or describable essence, but a deep mystery that he gave his life to and taught us how to offer all of our lives to this one infinite being that's living through us in many different ways of manifestation. But, I've spent a lot of time remembering what it must have been like to be an infant, before you have any experience. If there's no sense of time or space, there might be some pure sensations, but there's no really any idea of having a body. And then kind of like when we wake up in the morning, there's a transition that happens, and all of a sudden the world appears. And I think, Thay talked about how we live deeply every moment is that kind of awe and wonder. And there's kind of a transition there when the world appears, and many teachers will say that infinite consciousness reveals itself through manifestation, through our experience. So when we can slow down and relax and see what's really going on, it's important to relax in order to discover the impermanence, to see the workings of the impermanence that we are. And I've been talking a lot lately about how teachers will say that we live and die every moment. So it sounds like a big thing to say, are you ready to die? Because normally we think of ourselves as individual body minds. That there's a self inside the body, and death happens when we leave that body, or when the body is no longer alive, and then who knows what happens after that. But some teachers will say, they'll ask about what happens after death, and they'll say, I'm dead already. But what they mean is that they've learned how to die. They've learned to live in accord with that flow of impermanence, that there's just a constant flow of experience, seeing, hearing, thinking, feeling, that's always changing all the time. And there's, millions or billions of chemical reactions going inside our body on all the time that we're not aware of, And so what is our seeing, hearing, thinking, and feeling really made of? If we're aware of it, if we know it, witness it, experience it, we're experiencing what it's made of. So the great mystics are telling us that our essence is pure consciousness, and our thinking, our thought can't touch it, can't touch the imperceivable or the indescribable, but it's fully alive. And so what Thai means is becoming fully alive. We become aware of how we are, of the ideas we have of being a separate body mind are just flashing by, and they don't actually create any separation, that our infinite being we share with all beings. So that opening of awe and wonder, the present moment, is ever present. And that is the most wonderful moment. It can make any moment the most wonderful moment because it's the source. And that aliveness can be there, whatever's happening, whether it's a sad or a happy moment. The fact that it is that full of wonder and awe that makes it the most wonderful of any moment. So Thai also says that we practice not to limit the free expression of that life force. And he says also that it's like a river flowing, right? There's a saying, you can never step in the same river twice. And so our life force is flowing all the time. And then Judith started the meditation saying we shouldn't be waiting. Well, our aliveness is never waiting. It's always going all the time. So in order to stop waiting, all we have to do is just enter the flow, or realize we are the flow. Be that flow, and there's no waiting in that flow. It's just going, ever-present activity. And so it's still hard for me to grasp that, there's a birth and death happening all the time. And Thai says that birth and death are. So we need to become aware of that collaboration between them. And also it's a continuation. He calls his birthday continuation day. And his death day was also a continuation day. That there is just this constant flow of life. And the body, we just rent for a period of time. And when that moment of awareness comes, we're aware of the constant interrelationship between birth and death. And we are always moving from one and the other, but the full aliveness of the life force is always there. It's always constant. It's always here. It's always now. And so he tells us, the Buddha tells us, we already are what we seek. And so sometimes people will say, my meditation is very difficult. And the master will say, well, you already are what you seek. How hard is it just to know or to be what you are? After all, you are all the time. And so the invitation to live deeply and explore that ever-present being that we are is always present, is always there. It's always open, unconditionally open and accepting. So it's kind of an interesting little aha moment for me. It's different every time I go aha, but it's like we are all the time. When have we ever not been? When have we ever not existed? When has there ever been anything other than our life and death that we're confronting? So I had my birthday, and there's a Vedanta practice. You know, we say infinite being is not perceivable or describable. So they have a practice in Vedanta where they call it neti neti, where you realize I'm not this, I'm not that, but there's just the pure I am. So there's nothing objective that we can point to say that we are. So I had my birthday and I said, okay, so today I'm not 76 today. That's not what I am. I'm just consciousness, right? Infinite consciousness that I share with everybody. So 76 doesn't mean it's just a number, right? It worked for a while. Anyway, but I did have I realized I didn't talk about this last week, which means I guess I'm dealing with it better than I realized. So I didn't need to talk about it. It was 10 days ago, I went to have an MRI on my heart, and I have this leaky aortic valve, which is a serious thing because all the blood that the heart pumps out into our body comes through the aortic valve. I'm learning about that. And I had an MRI 4 years ago, and they said that the leakage is getting severe. It's like 50% of the blood getting pumped out is leaking back into your heart, but your heart's pretty strong, and there's no damage yet, so we just kind of have to monitor it. But at some point, you're probably going to have to remove that valve because it will get worse, like an old door hinge fades out after a while. So it's been pumping, you know, and Ty and his teacher's sister, Kan Chong, I think, gives wonderful guided meditations on how we should appreciate my heart. So I appreciate in all, you know, our body, all the different body parts, but my heart's been pumping away for 24/7 for 76 years, and it's leaking pretty bad, but it's still going. And so I did this MRI, and they said, well, yeah, you know, your heart's still strong, the pumping capacity is still good. And he said, well, that's pretty impressive for your age. And I said, well, yeah, I work out pretty hard because I want to make sure I can maintain that same level of energy. And I said, so I had to ask, I said, well, like 4 years ago, they said 50% of the blood is leaking out. It's still the same, right? Or is it maybe getting better? And he goes, well, no, it's about 60 or 70% now. And I'm like, really? And I'm like, well, isn't that getting pretty dangerous? And he goes, well, actually, you know, we just check it once in a while. And it's up to you to decide, you know, we kind of rely on the patient to decide when he's kind of is feeling more tired. And then we'll check to see if the heart is getting weaker and is starting to dilate. And, but, you know, I mean, well, I'll see you next year, you know, you'll be fine, go. And then I'm kind of like sitting there like, but it's getting worse, you know? And so I was thinking, well, I'm going to be a good Buddhist now. I mean, if I'm destined for the pearly gates, I want to see St. Peter. I don't want to see Satan or Mara, you know? when I get to the pearly gates. So I'm gonna resolve to be a good Buddhist and meditate harder and all that. But I guess I'm doing okay with it. But it's like the whole thing of recognition of our shared being with others, because everybody's going to die, you know, and everybody is all the time. But we're talking about here in Buddhism, we're talking about a presence, an infinite presence that's ever present, has no limits, perceivable limits, and is unconditionally accepting and supporting us, even though we're groundless, you know, in when we realize it, that when we die, there's not going to be any perceivable or describable ground supporting us, but pure consciousness is supporting us. And I like that part about the blue sky coming down through the ceiling. And sometimes when I'm out walking in nature, I can really feel kind of like watching a flock of birds fly by. There's lots of birds flying by where I live, way out in the boonies. And there's like a resonance, you know, a resonance that the birds ride and rest on. They're just kind of in that freedom they have, the freedom of the blue sky. And that's our being. And so I think when we talk in Buddhism about venerating the three jewels or taking refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha, that's offering our whole life for this practice, offering it to our being, our infinite being that we share with all beings. And it is really possible, we can open to these possibilities to realize that which doesn't come and go, which is with us all the time. It doesn't need to be liberated, it just needs to be recognized. And, you know, being already dead means being dead to the sense of a separate self, but fully alive to our true self. And then we have the freedom to offer the gift of fearlessness and great compassion for all beings. We have time here. I was going to read a couple of Rumi poems. And this first one is a poem titled, When I Die. When my coffin is being taken out, you must never think I'm missing this world. Don't shed any tears. Don't lament or feel sorry. I'm not falling into a monster's abyss. When you see my corpse is being carried, don't cry for my leaving. I'm arriving at eternal love. When you leave me in the grave, don't say goodbye. Remember, a grave is only a curtain for the paradise behind. You only see me descending into a grave. Now watch me rise. How can there be an end when the sun sets or the moon goes down? It looks like the end. It seems like a sunset, but in reality, it is a dawn. When the grave locks you up, that is when your soul is freed. Why should you doubt the rise of a seed named human, when for the last time you close your mouth, your words and soul will belong to the world of no place and no time. And the second poem is a short one called Rumi's Poem of the Atoms. And this is kind of a direct commentary on impermanence. O day arise, the atoms are dancing. Thanks to God, the universe is dancing. The souls are dancing, overcome with ecstasy. I'll whisper in your ear where their dance is taking them. All the atoms in the desert and in the air know well they seem insane. They are good-natured, for like us, they are enchanted. Every single atom, happy or miserable, becomes enamored of the sun, of which nothing can be said. Okay.
Thank you, Roger. Lovely.
Thank you. So we have time for discussion. Are you ready to die? I can't believe I just said that, but
I think I look forward to that journey.
good.
Yeah, I see it as a final liberating journey, you know. And I don't have any fear, really. I mean, I don't know, maybe, you know, I guess it depends, and you don't know for sure how you're going to react, and maybe the circumstances, but I mean, in that way, I'm ready physically, and you know, I'm not really, you know, I don't have all my affairs in order, kind of. So I feel like I had to work on that, so that you know, that will kind of set me more free to, you know, but yeah, it's so great. Yeah, it's so good to know that there is nothing to be fearful of. You know, so many people living deluded. You know, not wanting to even talk about it or even go there. You know, and sort of afraid of the thought of, you know, the possibility. You know, they possibility. I mean, they don't even think that they're gonna go there. Yes. Everybody else but them. Um,
Right.
yeah.
Mhm.
I listened to this Native American speaker talked, and I always get all these summits and, you know, just different angles. Just they just have so many of those things, and I get all of them, and so it's kind of hard not to. But I'm more very selective now. Otherwise, there's so much out there. And he was talking about that in Lakota language, they don't have opposites. They don't have any. It's all, you know. There's no difference, and you know, and then he talked about you know, how they see things in an egalitarian relational instead of hierarchical, and can't remember, you know, like egotistical. I'm not sure if that's the word he used, but and also being really live really live with what is, and nature, being present. The way he expressed that was so profound that it was almost, you know, it's like someone who is close to nature all the time, and really like feel, you know, it's like a strong feeling for the land and everything around, you know, that we just, it's kind of hard for us, you know, not living that type of life to know what that is like, and
I guess he talked about a book called The Absence of the Sacred, of Sacredness. And I was trying to figure, trying to see what the book was about. And I guess the book is about, it's against a lot of the technologies and even television and all that. And anyway, I just thought it was interesting. I mean, it was very, the whole, he was like in such a different level, that even the person who was interviewing him, who was Tibetan Buddhist and also as Roshi, Zen Roshi, and what else? He's also a psychiatrist, or what is his name? Gosh, no, I'm just forgetting his name. He's actually, he had a history of being in a prison actually in his young years for different things. He got into a lot of trouble as a young person, and then he was already a Buddhist, and all those years spent in prison, he really he got really, like really was able to practice and committed, committed his whole life to the practices. But anyway, he was at the end of this interview. He said he was like short circuit. He has short circuit. He was all in the the thought, because this person is a Native American person. So was in such a different level that that it was hard to. It was it's like it's difficult to relate, and to go there because the concepts were so different, and so like he said, in our practice, we practice about looking beyond dualism and all that, but we don't live in that world. Our language is dualistic, and we're we had to struggle to be able to see through that. But when it's difficult to comprehend someone whose language doesn't even have those features, so you don't even have to you don't have to struggle with those those things. It's like something less. So it was almost like it's like to the core. Everything he was saying was like to the core of what we we're doing.
Well, in a lot of the Native American traditions, in some of the more primitive, tribes in history they're talking about harmonization of the opposites, but they don't really articulate them in the same way that we do. But in living with nature in the absence of sacredness, because everything is sacred, you don't have to call it sacred, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's that kind of thing. So
and
thanks.
they have no term for ownership.
Right.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. Hierarchical, or that's true. That was interesting. It's interesting.
And our whole culture is based on me and mine, greed, consumerism, all of that.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
So thank you. Thank you, Georgina.
Thank you. Thank you.
Still got time.
I did a ceremony with a Lakota Sioux. The stones, the heat of the stones. What is it called?
Oh, I went to one of those with the Pueblo Indians. I think they call it a mitote. That's
Okay.
what they call it, but there's probably called a lot of different. It
Sweat
was
lodge.
like
Sweat
sweat
lodge.
lodge.
That's
Yeah,
what I was trying to think of.
yeah, it was a sweat lodge. That's what it
We
was.
did one of those when I finished the Vision Fast on the mountain at Narrow Ridge also. But that was so lame compared to the one that was done by the Lakota Sioux because it was much hotter. I thought my skin was going to burn off of my body. I mean, it was the kind of intense heat I had never felt before.
Was it an all-nighter?
No, it had a beginning, a middle, and an ending. So no, it wasn't an all-nighter, but it was very powerful. And saying prayers, we're all sitting there in our bathing suits, just sopping wet, it's sort of like being in Vietnam. You step out your door and you're sopping wet the minute you step out.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
yeah, anyway, I admire so many of the tribal practices. I feel the land bridge brought the Tibetans together with the Native Americans of the North America. So they mixed up their practices a bit. So Buddhism and Native American are similar.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We have about 4 minutes. Norma, did you want to say anything? Is Norma with us? No?
She might be having connection problems because she was in and out a little bit.
Yeah, she was going in and out. Yeah.
Well, how are you doing, Lee?
Well, thank you guys for your meditation and teaching tonight. One thing that arose to me was Buddha's teaching on how there are so many mind moments, is how it was translated in the text that I studied, like 84,000 mind moments in every minute. And we are born and die in every moment. And kind of combining that with the beginner's mind of Suzuki Roshi and the innocence of the newborn. If I am born in every moment, then I am a newborn in every moment. And then that beginner's mind should be relatively accessible if I can just stop trying to be such an old timer and expert at everything. Letting go of the concept of being unborn is living. And letting go of the concept of dying is also living. If we try and solidify either of those extremes, then we've missed the opportunity to experience this birth and death that is every mind moment of our lives. And what is that? I don't know. There's no concepts to encapsulate it and put it on a plaque. There's no bumper sticker that encompasses it well.
Mm-hmm.
What is birth and death? What is aging? What is all this stuff? I don't know. This idea of I and my, and that I somehow possess this body, and where does that begin and end? The more I practice, the less I have any real concrete evidence that these concepts are valid at all. It's becoming more nebulous, and yet as someone wrote in their teachings, you have to make breakfast, you have to take out the trash. There are these mundane things that occur, but pervading all of that is this sneaking suspicion that it's just not so. And I'm becoming more and more comfortable with that. Georgina mentioned that she's not afraid of dying. I'm becoming more suspicious that my entire this entire apparent existence has been nothing but a transition. It's a constant wave of going from this to that, one state to another, subtle and gross. I don't appear to be anything like the child I was when I was 2, and yet there appears to be this continuity between him and myself now. And so what does the continuity look like, from this existence that I seem to be experiencing now, and what happens next? I have no idea. But I'm open to the experience. I'm not in any hurry for it. But I'm becoming more relaxed with the idea that it's just not so, and there's more to learn, there's more to let go of, and there's more to experience. So that's really kind of what I got from, I'm ready to die, and I'm ready to be born, all in this mind moment, and now in this one, and now in this one, and how many millions of times a day I can't begin to count. So, but happy birthday to all of us,
Happy continuation, Dave.
Continuation, yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Lee, and
Thank you.
Roger and Georgina and everybody. It's time to close, and I'm going to go ahead and do that since it seems Norm is having difficulty. Thank you so much for being here.
What a cute dog.
This is Alfie, yeah.
Alfie.
May the radiance of this practice
benefit
all beings and bring what?
Peace.
Peace. Love you guys.
Love you. Have a great week.
Love you too.
Thank you.
Good week.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.